my god. Boring is an understatement. Alright, so what alright, so let's start at the beginning then. Why don't you ask me that first question? No, no, no. Ask me that first question again. Not the part with Koga, just the first question. So, me and Gamer here were already talking about this earlier, but as a short recap, we both mentioned that Chronos is mostly for healers. Now, most of the healers in the game have loadouts that allow you to reduce the cooldown if they don't already have it. And Morale Boost is a better choice than Chronos in almost every case. Ying does not need Chronos, she needs Morale Boost. Saris does not need Chronos, she benefits more from Morale Boost. Same thing with Damba, same thing with Furia, same thing with Grover, Genos, and Pip can go either or, where they do have longer cooldowns, but their ults are very powerful and kind of worth it. So if I see like Grover's, Pips, and Genos's on Chronos, I don't really mind as much. Grok kind of needs Chronos because he has 15 seconds with no way to reduce it. But if you're talking about like a damage healers need Chronos because they're not building their kit around healing. Alright, so what was the second question then?
Why not play Koga?
Because Koga's fucking annoying. You would imagine that a character that is based around having no cooldown would be a very high-risk, high-reward playable character. There's no high-risk, high-reward with him. He literally does not have counterplay for the most part. That's the funny part. This is Koga's entire kit. Hold down R2. When you get low on ammo, or when you get low on health, you press L2 3 times, and then you hold down R2 until you need to repeat the cycle. There's nothing that Koga offers to reward a high-level player. Now, a lot of people could say, oh, the claws, the claws, the claws. What about the claws? The claws are great for damage, but because they only have that limited duration, and you have to value, are you going to be using your high damage claw option and start playing like Wolverine, flicking his wrist at people, basically? Or are you going to have survivability and mobility? All of your survivability and all of your mobility and all of your self-sustain is tied to the same meter as your burst damage ability. Even though your SMGs in the long run do better damage, they do more consistent damage because they don't use your power meter. I mean, if you look at all the loadout cards that Koga has, so he can get a 20% movement speed during agility, 100% increased jump height during agility, 20 ammo per second during agility, 100 health per second during agility. See, those are all Dragon Stance. Shadow Step generates 40 ammo. Shadow Step heals for 60 health. All of these cards are built around your... excuse me. Are built around your energy. They're built around agility and Shadow Step. And yet, this is what he gets in his, for his claws. 25% life rate. Okay. That's not bad. 75% reduced cauterize, which is going away. Generate 30 ammo per second in Dragon Stance, but you get a better benefit out of agility. Reduce the time to switch in and out by 50%. Whoop-de-doo. Kills with Skewer grant 50% energy. That's not bad. Kills with Skewer grant 1,000 energy. Or 1,000 health. Problem with both of those cards is they're built around using your entire power meter. And you have to get a kill with an ability that does 600 damage. And is pretty easy to miss. So and then you have a card Trigger Happy, where while firing your SMGs, you get up to 50% increased healing. And then there's another card for him where falling below 50% energy grants up to 50% energy with a 10-second internal cooldown on it. Koga's kit is entirely designed around his power meter, and the problem with his overall design that I don't think they realized when they gave him that fucking Shadow Step ability is that he has no cooldown, but you have to balance that by making him choose between certain abilities if they're going to consume the same amount of meter. They need to honestly rework Dragon Stance, where Dragon Stance basically lets you use your claws for, let's say, 2 or 3 seconds for every bar of meter you burn. Rather than just draining your ammo, draining your meter down, if it worked like his Shadow Step and like his Agility did, where it consumed 1 bar of your energy immediately, it would bring the claws out and you would swipe with them for a few seconds and then they would go away. And you'd be back on your SMGs. That would be more balanced and beneficial. Chronos is better if it would be a lot more playable if it was at 300 credits. Because there's so many loadout cards that reduce cooldowns that if you're a smart loadout builder, you don't need Chronos. If you're buying Chronos in-game, you are wasting your credits over things. Like, it's the old aggression argument, when aggression used to be in the game, where, oh, do you get aggression or do you get Haven? Well, with aggression, you know, you would spend all of these credits, and if the other person bought Haven, they would then have 15% damage reduction, and they could buy 2 more tier 1 items than you could. If you were the one that bought the aggression. So, it's the same thing with Chronos and loadouts, in my opinion. That's why I'm not a fan of it. Like, I put up with Deft Hands because there are some characters that fucking need Deft Hands. You're gonna tell me that Maldamba doesn't need reload speed? I mean, we all agree on that.
Yeah. He does.
So, I get Deft Hands. Deft Hands is worth it. Also, if you're choosing Deft Hands, you're kind of making a conscious choice that we don't need Cauterize or we don't need Wrecker.
Well, what about Dredge? That's an argument.
Dredge has reload speed in his kit. He has Heave Away 4. No. Maldamba's only goes up to 20%. Dredge goes up to 40%.
Still what? 25%. Maldamba.
But if you're running 25%, then you're not building it right.
Not always.
Well, okay, so then let this be a teaching moment. So, how high does Deft Hands go when you buy Deft Hands?
I'm not sure, is it?
60%.
60, yeah.
You cannot stack reload speed above 60%. So, when you run a Maldamba that runs the Snake Pit card at level 5, which is 25% reload speed, and then you try and buy reload speed in-game, if you buy reload speed tier 2, you have 40% Deft Hands, not 65%. Because the way the game works is one will take priority over the other. So, having Snake Pit 5 with Deft Hands 1 is the same as having Deft Hands 2 and Snake Pit 5. Because you're not going to get them to stack. That's why the build that I run for a Stun Damba has Snake Pit at 4, and I will buy Deft Hands up to level 2, so I get that 60% bonus. You can't stack it above 60%, so if you actually run the card so that it can't stack up to 60%, then you're wasting that loadout card and or your credits. That's why Pip is an interesting one, because Pip has a 35% reload speed card. So you can buy Deft Hands 1 and have it stack up to the maximum, or as close to the max as you're going to get, which is 55%. So Pip is actually better on reload speed than Damba is. Same thing with Makoa. Makoa has that 35% reload speed card.
But the difference is Pip, like, yeah, he gets a quicker reload, but Damba gets something out of his reload.
Pip.
That's why.
True, but if Combat Medic. How often do you play around Combat Medic on Pip?
Not much.
That's why. Combat Medic allows you to heal allies when you shoot them. So you have 2 healing options. You shoot your allies, and you throw a healing potion at them. So the reload speed becomes... But it's not as quick, but it's much more consistent. Remember, there's no good cooldown cards on Pip. The only good cooldown card that he has is Reload, which A, is conditioned upon you hitting your allies. So if you miss, that card doesn't come into effect. And B, once you use it, there's a 5-second cooldown before that card comes into effect again. So it only affects every other heal. Combat Medic is a bit more steady. It's inferior healing, but it's much more steady. It's kind of like the argument of, you know, Celestial Touch Genos, where, you know, he's healing more consistently, but it's not as effective as, say, a Luminary. Koga's just fucking broken, though. Like, they thought a fucking ability that has no cooldown, reloads, heals, grants in-target ability, and crowd control cleanses was a good idea. And then they thought the ability to give you 3 of those was a good idea.
I think actually they're nerfing Genos even more with its healing.
What, with the Celestial Touch?
No, I think they're nerfing Luminary.
No, they're not. No, Luminary's staying the same. The only change that they're doing to his abilities is they are taking Celestial Touch, they're cutting it in half down to 5%, and then they're making it base kit on him.
Oh, that's what it is.
Yeah. So every time you activate your Astral Mark, it will heal an ally for 5% of their maximum health instantly, and then 220 health per second for 10 seconds.
So, like, tier 5, is that even going to be any good?
What do you mean, tier 5?
Well, that's what. Oh, yeah, because the card system's changing, isn't it?
It's not they're not making it a loadout card. It's going to be base kit. It is set at 5%. The only 2 loadout cards that he's having change are Side Reel, which weapon attacks reveal enemies to you for a certain amount of time. That is going to be a health card. And then the Void Grip one, which is enemies affected by Void Grip receive reduced healing, is going to be you heal a certain amount of health per second while someone is being Void Gripped. That's the only changes that they're doing to Genos.
But he just has poor healing. It's very poor. Compared to the others.
It's poor burst healing. He has solid healing. He's a Genos is routinely going to get the most healing in a game because of he heals for such a long time, being a duration healer.
Yeah,
it's just
quite consistent.
He's affected so heavily by Cauterize. He's affected by his low health. He heals 220 health per second. Like, that's pathetic. You know, they buffed up Damba a bit. They buffed up Damba's Gourd to
Which is awesome.
300 health per second. It went from 250 to 280 and 280 to 300. So, if they did the same thing to Genos, if Genos healed 300 health per second, I mean, even look at Ying. Ying heals 420 per second when near an illusion. Grok heals 420 health per second, which makes Grok a better healer than Genos. I mean, Genos literally does the lowest heal on the duration healers. And the problem that I have is, because they want you to play Luminaries so bad, because Luminaries meta, they want you to have that fucking bonus damage. Problem is, you sit there, and you heal these fucking damages, and you heal these fucking flanks, and they don't do anything. That's why I can't stand that card, because every time I play it, no one fucking uses it.
So who does burst?
What do you mean by long?
Is it Ceres?
What do you mean longest
Like
burst?
duration healing.
Genos.
Duration.
Genos is up to 12 seconds.
Damn.
Yeah. Because, like, the build, my primary healing build is increase range by 50%, reduce the cooldown to 6 seconds, and then increase the duration to 12 seconds. And then 2 fillers on Void Grip.
Do you suggest Chronos for Gens then?
No. I run morale boost on that build.
But what if you can't? What if you have no accuracy?
What do you mean you don't have accuracy? It goes through walls that has auto-aim. How do you not have accuracy on that? Like, I will intentionally... If two people are really close to one another and one is full health and one is half health, and I'm trying to heal the person that's half health and they just keep, like, switching back and forth with each other and they won't fucking move, then I'll, like... You know, then I will, like, wait to heal you. And I'll say over the mic, you need to, like, go over here for just a split second so I can pop a heal on you. Thanks! Most people just cuss me out and tell me to be quiet in game, so...
Yeah. We know all about that. But yeah. I think Grove... Actually, no, Grover needs Chronos. He needs Chronos.
I don't know about that. Yeah, Adrenaline 5 with Perennial 4. Do I have that build still? I don't think I have that build still. It's a movement speed build. It's the cooldown build. It's the tank build. Well, there's movement speed in that build, so I don't really need this one, so... Nah.
Oh yeah, you know Grover's one of the only champions that has 2 base loadouts.
What do you mean?
Like here's so like, well, paladins. You know when you first play a character.
You just
you
have that
to play-
preset loadout. He only has 1.
Yeah, he has 2,
No, he doesn't. He has Lumbering Jack. That's it.
and he has Chopper.
What are you talking about?
I had Chopper at the beginning,
Hold
and
on,
I can't delete it.
Do you still have Chopper? Let me... Yeah, I'm looking at Chopper right now. Hold on.
I don't know.
Chopper and Lumbering Jack are the same, it's just one card is different. Nature's Quickness is in Lumbering Jack. And then there's Perennial in Chopper.
I don't know. Strange.
Yeah, because I don't have that. I have my standard 4 builds, and then I have the Lumbering Jack that I can't delete. And I leave the last slot open in case I need to import loadouts. That's why I only have 4 builds on a character.
This is a good question. If Ying could deploy more than 2 deployables at once, would you buy Chronos?
No, It's
Yikes.
No, it's... Again, look at your loadout. Okay, so she's got a 5-second cooldown. So, first off, you could have carry on, where your illusions last longer. The goal is not necessarily to reduce a cooldown, but to make an ability last long enough where the cooldown ticks itself down. That's the thing with Grok. Grok can have up to a 9-second duration on his totem. And if you run a Gale Ghost Walk build, where every time you activate Ghost Walk it takes 5 seconds off the cooldown, Grok can have a 10-second cooldown on his totem. That means that Grok can have a 10-second cooldown on an ability that lasts 9 seconds. So there's only a 1-second difference between it, unless you destroy it. You could do a similar thing with Ying. Ying's clones by default last for 8 seconds. You can increase that by another 5 seconds, so you have a 13-second cooldown on an ability that has a 5-second cooldown. So she's like Jenna, she could have up to 3 clones out at a time. You could also run the card Encouragement, where eliminations reduce all active cooldowns by 1 second. You max that out. Every time you get an elimination, you reset the cooldown on your clone. And you run the card Rewind, where every time you swap to a dead illusion, it spawns an illusion with health. So you could if she could have multiple clones out. Not only that, there's Spring Bloom, where when illusions die to an enemy, it reduces the cooldown by up to 2.5 seconds. So again, she has enough cooldown cards in her kit where you don't really sit there and say, I need Chronos for her.
Ying.
Her ult is too powerful. It's 600 health per second, over 8 seconds, anywhere on the map.
If they nerf that would be so annoying. That would be... And the ability to teleport as well to an ally.
I could see them nerfing the ability to teleport. This is high res we're talking about.
But I mean with Furia, she only has one thing that can reduce her Pyre Strike down. And it's not really that strong.
It was stronger with Celerity. But they're removing Celerity, and you couldn't run Celerity and Solar Blessing together.
Exactly, so it's not. It doesn't feel like a benefit.
Well, the trick to it is this. So you chuck out a Wings of Wrath, which takes 2 seconds off the Pyre Strike. So then you chuck out the Pyre Strike. When you hit the Pyre Strike, that takes down the cooldown on your Wings of Wrath. Not to mention the fact that Solar Blessing is very powerful, which is why they chose the ability that had the longest cooldown on it. Like, if you could spam Solar Blessing, like, there would be no way to win if you were the enemy team. You basically would just keep a Solar Blessing on the point, everyone stands in it, and no one ever leaves the point. And if the enemy came onto the point, they would get stunned by it and die.
Death and taxes, Leon, 90%.
6, and? You know what Solar Blessing does? Solar Blessing against Tier 3 Claw heals what a Ying ult does. 600 health per second. If you can survive with a Ying ult, you can survive with a Furious Solar Blessing. That's why I don't even bother with Chronos. If you die in a Solar Blessing, you weren't in the Solar Blessing.
Yeah.
The only way to counter a Solar Blessing is with the Willow Dead Zone. That's it.
No. Well, Death and Taxes in Tier 1 Cauterize.
No, because you can't stack Cauterize above 90% anymore.
What, above? So you can't even have Tier 1 Cauterize?
No, if you have Tier 1 Cauterize, you know what you get? Tier 1 Cauterize, not Death and Taxes. So all those Leons out there that I see that buy fucking Death and Taxes and Tier 1 Cauterize have Tier 1 Cauterize. Because
that used to work, though.
Used to. Notice how I said before you can no longer do it. Because I used to run a Sky build with 75% healing reduction on Poison Bolt, and I would buy Tier 1 Cauterize so that I would have complete 100% Cauterize on whatever person I shot. Can't run that anymore, that's why I run mostly Smoke and Dagger. You know, until they
Sky.
turn into a fucking support.
Ooh, I can't wait for that. It's gonna be interesting.
Do you see me playing Moji as a fucking support?
I think you'd play it a couple of times, and then sometimes it might change.
I'd play it when we don't have a healer. That's it. Smoke and Dagger Sky, same thing, when you have nothing else. Because the smoke screen no longer impairs invisibility, what's the fucking point? All the smoke screen is going to do now is it resets all of Sky's stealth abilities. So every time she goes in, she turns invisible. Whoop-de-doo.
It's still quite. I think she's quite glitchy with her smoke screen. Like, you can be constantly invisible the whole time.
What, now
And
or
then-
upcoming? Upcoming she'll be able to.
And then if she's running emergency exit as well, she can just
Sky.
constantly be invisible if someone's hitting her.
True, but they also want you to pick Illuminate. That's why they opened up the item shop and made Illuminate cheaper, so that you can pick multiple things.
What, like Haven and Lim- Oh, is there still going to be like you can only just pick 4 items?
Yes. It's any 4 items you want.
But then you're not. If you want to use 2 in the same area,
You have to forsake something in another category, I know.
the only person that would benefit from that is Furia.
No, there's a lot of characters I do that with. Like, if you think about it, my Maldamba's gonna be great. Okay? So I get kill to heal, I'm gonna get kill to heal, I'm gonna get reload speed, and I'm gonna get, 2 of the blue items. Either Haven, Blast, Shield, or Resilience. I'll get 2 of those.
I'd get 2 of the red items. I'd argue 2 of the red.
He doesn't apply Cauterize well enough. Well, he applies Cauterize well enough, but I mean, it doesn't do enough damage to really benefit. Not to mention, you really don't want to go Caut 3 on fucking Damba. Wrecker's the only other thing I could see. But, to be honest, you're bet on a character that actually has a physically deployed shield. You're better off just slithering behind them and hitting them with a stun.
Well, Bulldozer's just situational, isn't it?
That's my thing. They haven't done anything to increase the value of Bulldozer and Illuminate. Every single video that I had on the Champion Profile series, I would always say the same thing. Illuminate is useless. You are better off buying Haven. Every champion that offensively uses Illuminate, Sky, Shaolin, Strix, are direct damage dealers. You're better off on Haven to counter it. Saris is the only other champion. Saris and Zin are the only other champions you benefit from Illuminate. And they can't use it offensively. It's only defensively. They can't attack while they are invisible.
Yeah.
So there's no benefit to Illuminate on them. Same thing with Bulldozer. So, all of the champions that have high health deployables. We're not talking about Kinessa and Vivian here. Grok, Anara, Barrack, Ying. 2 of them are healers, so you're better off on Cauterize. And then in the case of Anara and Barrack, they get more healing off of their actual deployable than their deployable does in terms of damage. I mean, do you understand how much? Do you understand how much healing I get out of my Anara? Once again, you forget this is the person that has healed themselves from 11 health up to 800 health because I didn't have a fucking healer because of my self-heal build.
Do you max out Caretaker?
I have Caretaker 4. I don't have it maxed.
So what?
Look up
do you
Cripple
get
Fight.
Saddam?
Look up Cripple Fight off of me.
Inara.
Oh yeah, Earthian Guard. as well. And the damage reduction. I'm surprised you don't have that a little higher. I think
Look up damage reduction and glacial aggression.
I've seen glacial aggression before.
No, glacial aggression is reworked. I kept the name because it's a good name, but I reworked the cards on it.
Oh yeah, I guess you've buffed some of them.
Please.
Yeah. Interesting.
Alright, are we done debating? Can we play now?